Tell the story of when you were glad you studied the papers before you signed them. When I was ripe to propose to my girlfriend, I was approached by a rather famous jewelry store for a ring. I wanted to surprise her, but I realized that she would probably want to change the ring for another, and so I asked the employees in advance if I could return my $900. They assured me I could. I proposed to her. My fiancée, as I expected, found another ring in another store, so I went back to the store and asked for a refund. The employee looks at me and says, "No problem, just sign this first." I look at the little piece of paper she gives me, and I'm about to sign it, but suddenly I see in small print, "I confirm that this purchase is final and non-refundable." I look at the girl and ask, "Why should I sign this?" She took the paper away, called the manager, and he transferred the full amount to my card without any questions. If anyone is interested, it was at People's Jewelers in Vancouver. I'm a musician. They wanted me on a label once. The contract was written in very, very broken English. The whole document was soaked in idiocy, but I was especially pleased with the following points. 1. I have to give them my name. 2. I have to give them the copyrights to all my old songs. 3. If they don't sell all physical copies of my music, I will have to compensate for the losses out of my own pocket. Fuck them.
I'm sorry we couldn't sell 12 million of your CDs. How do you think we're going to pay for it? My husband and I were buying a house. My husband signed the papers at once, and I had some other things to do, so I could only arrive in the evening. When I arrived, I started studying the loan application. Our lender sees this and says, "You know you don't have to read it, right? Especially since your husband's already signed." I was like, "No, I want to make sure that everything is as I want it to be." And then it turns out that on the papers we borrowed $25,000 and as much as 25%, and then I didn't sign anything and immediately slipped out of there. The lender started threatening to sue me, to which I replied, "It's cheaper for me to sue than to pay his overheating and interest." Since then, the mortgage is only me, and that lender, by the way, was a high school friend of my husband's. Please tell me that you had a serious conversation with your husband. I would be furious if my husband signed such an important document without studying at least the main points.
Once when I got a job, it was written in my contract that I had to work for them for at least 4 years. Otherwise, those 4 years would be counted as training, which I would have to pay out of his pocket, in case I left early. Some time ago, our school got Wi-Fi. When I tried to connect to it for the first time, I noticed that in the terms of the agreement, it was stipulated that the school could take my phone and study its contents. I decided that I didn't need it, and I still don't use it. Decided to buy a connected phone for $200. The salesman told me that they were closing and that it would be more convenient if I came to sign the papers the next day. By morning, the amount in the contract that had been on the table all night had miraculously changed from $200 to $300. I caught them at it and left for another store. My wife and I came to the car dealership to register our first car. We were going to take it in installments because the salon had a special offer for recent college graduates who could get a loan without additional interest, and their financier offered 2 loan options, one for 3 years and the other for 5 years. While we were communicating, he assured us in every possible way that both options go without interest, so we agreed to 5 years to reduce premiums. Then the same dude gives us the papers and hurries us to sign them as soon as possible, but we are not completely stupid and start reading the details, and what do you think? It turns out that the 5-year loan does not fall under their action, and that under this contract, we will have to overpay 6.5%. That's a lot more than zero, if you ask me. We got angry and started threatening to leave. Then they realized that now they would lose customers and made concessions to us and gave us a discount on the car. Shit, that's how many graduates fall for this theme, signing papers blindly. The guy who gave me the apartment allowed me to move out a month before our contract expired because he already had the next tenant in mind. All he needed was my written consent to move out early and one piece of paper that would change the terms of the original contract. When he brought it to me to sign, I decided to study everything thoroughly because I was aware that the dude had been in jail for fraud not so long ago, and I did the right thing because there was a clause that said that if something went wrong with the new tenant, I would stay on the hook and continue to pay rent, even though I didn't live there anymore. When I caught him on that clause, he was like, "Oh yeah, I added that part to protect myself a little bit," and then he stole my deposit. Shit, I should have sued him. I hate you, John. We were selling our business and my wife's car was registered to the company, but we were not going to sell it. When the lawyer came to us, we immediately made it clear that we were selling all the equipment goods and so on, except the car, and guess what was in the contract that he sent us a week later? Thank God that we carefully reread everything and managed to cross out this clause before the papers got to the buyer. I found a job 350 miles from the home of family and friends. The conditions were great. The interview went great. Plus, I just happened to meet a guy I worked with years ago. Everything seemed so cool that I rented an apartment within walking distance of the work. Formally, I was already taken only to bring the signed papers the day before it was necessary to give them. I decided to take a quick look at what I was getting myself into, and there were 3 clear problems, and I don't remember exactly what these points sounded like, but I'll try to paraphrase. 1. The position you are applying for is the only position you can have in our company. Even though you may have salary increases, you will never be promoted or change your position. We need people who are committed to their position. 2. We do not provide any health insurance. Your health is your responsibility. 3. If you get fired or if you leave the company, you will not be able to work for a company that has computers or internet for the next year. I got a job there as a tech support analyst, and the salary was supposed to be great, but when I saw these points, I ran away.
The third point they would never defend in court.
Once I decided to sign up for a gym membership instead of the promised $90 a month, my card was charged $250. I went home upset that I had been cheated. The next night, I almost didn't sleep because I was still angry. In the morning, I decided to call them and see if there was any way I could cancel my membership, and was told that it was only possible if I moved to a neighborhood where they didn't have a gym. A day later, I read our contract and found a clause where it was said that within 2 weeks the season ticket can be cancelled without any explanation, and then it was only 3 days after that I very quickly got it cancelled. I got my money back. I was looking for a new room. I went to look at another room. I liked it so much that I was ready to give the deposit, but I decided just in case to study the house rules that they sent me by email. But here it is important to add that while I was looking at the house, I was given another rules printed on paper. I thought they were too strict, especially for such an expensive rent. But in general, everything was okay, and I realized that there was nothing I could do about it. Praise Odin that I thought to read their email the rules on this list were fundamentally different from what I was shown on the spot. There were items like 1. If you want to bring a guest to your apartment, you have to write a written request a week in advance that must be approved by everyone in the apartment. Guests are not allowed to stay overnight. 4. When someone comes to visit you, they must leave a $1.20 fee to cover the cost of water in the toilet. I read all this and thought, what do you want me to pay you for a room with 1,000 and more? And could not without bends to invite friends to their place after that. I of course left them myself. There were a lot of other Roflovi there, and other Roflovi there was a lot of these were the most memorable. $1.20 is expensive, but they have water in the toilet. If I had to pay that fee, I would just flush the toilet in the toilet. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments, can you tell a story of when you were glad you studied the papers before you signed them?